Aloha. Welcome to Return on Wellness, a web series brought to you by Olympian Meeting.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me on this very special episode of Return on Wellness. We're filming on location here at Canyon Ranch in Woodside, California. This is a gorgeous 38-room property with 24 luxury tree houses, 2,000 square feet of meeting space, and the best part, it's all inclusive. This is a Silicon Valley hotel that is all inclusive. All the food, all the drinks, all included, so that when you're here, you don't have to think about things. You can just be present. We're going to sit down with 4 of the property's leaders. We're going to sit down with their executive chef, their head of fitness, their spiritual leader, and their GM. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Cribs, Return on Wellness Edition. Kidding, but everyone remembers that show. We are here in one of the tree houses at Canyon Ranch. Come on in. Like any hotel, they offer a single king or 2 queen beds. You will notice, if you look up here in the corners, on all these windows, there's no shades, there's no blinds. The idea behind this is actually with fierce intention of helping you tune into your circadian rhythm so that you wake up when the sun comes up. You start to get tired when the sun goes down. As you can tell in between these pauses, it's very quiet. You are literally out here in the redwood. If you look down 20, 30 feet down to the bottom. So you're up here in the trees, incredibly silent. I slept so good last night. Overall, amazing experience, and this property is one of a kind. Because you don't have any blinds or curtains, maybe you stayed up a little too late on your phone because you were scrolling through Instagram, watching a long episode of Return on Wellness. I will discourage you to do that. Please watch it during the day. But they do equip these rooms with these little eye masks, just in case there's a full moon, it's a little too bright, you prefer absolute blackness, or you just want to sleep longer. That's totally okay. Another nice thing about these rooms is not only is there a espresso machine with a bunch of pods, there's also a tea kettle. And when you go into here, there's a little fridge. Not huge, but it's something. And then right above it, there's all their coffee. They noticed how much Nespresso I was going through, so they added an extra pod. You have your coffee cups, you have your tea, there's chamomile in here, creamer, whatnot. Of course, there's a safe. But then this also is equipped with a wonderful bathroom. So they have this European style shower. European style, I mean the door. Oh, we all know that. It's very normal in Europe, not here. Single shower head, but it does detach, and then your full amenities kit, as well as a nice makeup mirror, which is good for me when I shave or my little side room, so I can dial it in, and a scale that is optional if you're tracking that kind of thing. We'll say I have not been using it. So another thing I mentioned is that the robe. These are the robes. Do you see this? It's like fleece lined. For those of you that like a wearable blanket, this is it. Wearable blanket. Hello and welcome to this special episode of Return on Wellness. I'm your host, David T. Stevens, and I am sitting here with Executive Chef George.
Executive Chef, yeah.
All right, well, congratulations on the Executive Chef title.
Thank you very much.
Everyone has to say yes, chef, when you scream in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, even if they don't like it, they got it. Yeah. It's part of the perks. You know?
All right, well, we're going to talk a little bit about the food and beverage program here at Canyon Ranch. We are sitting out here in the redwoods. There might be some planes that fly over or some overly exhaust motorcycles that go down Skyline
or Porsches.
or Porsches. Yeah, a number of things.
Yeah.
So bear with us, but we got mics on, so we should be able to make for a good episode. So we're going to spend about 15 minutes here chatting about food and beverage here at Canyon Ranch and what makes it special.
Yeah.
Let's start with how you ended up here, because everyone's journey is a little different, and and I'd love for people to know how you ended up here.
Yeah, my journey started like most chefs, culinary school, and working around, staging. And I was offered a position to open a kind of like a Japanese restaurant attached to a little spa in San Francisco. It's called Onsen. And that kind of sparked a little kind of little bug in me about nutrition and working out and being healthier and eventually I heard about Canyon Ranch and I heard that there was a property here. So I reached out, they reached out, and we kind of just, it was a good fit. I eat a lot of vegetables. So.
I think a lot of people may not know to connect the dots between the Japanese cuisine and being attached to a spa. That seems like, well, okay, why would sushi be at a spa?
Right.
So you want to elaborate a little more on what that means?
Yeah, well, first of all, our term for spa is, what we picture in spa in Western countries is pretty standard for onsens in Japan. So they have a big bathing community. In Japan, they do a lot of steam, a lot of communal bathing, and most onsens in Japan have a small restaurant attached to it. And obviously, being in Japan, it's Japanese food. But also, Japanese food is usually much cleaner. It's it's focused more on the quality of the ingredients rather than the technique, or not the technique, but what we add to the ingredients. So it makes for a cleaner dish and I say overall healthier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So that triggered your interest in that type of cuisine.
That type, just kind of clean cooking, local cooking. The Bay Area, we're known for locality. The farm to table. It's a little overdone nowadays, but we started it. California did Bay Area, so it's kind of the standard. And I felt like I could have brought what I learned at the onsen and to Canyon Ranch here on the property. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what the process is building a meal here. One of the things that got my attention was when we were talking about planning this, the Sky, who thank you for having us, Sky. She sent me an Instagram reel about you talking about something called computrition.
Yeah.
Can you explain to the viewers exactly what that is and how that integrates into your meal planning process?
Yeah, so computrition is kind of like the hidden hero here. We all, as chefs, we all have ideas of dishes, and the process for us for making dishes that fall within the Canyon Ranch standard is, first of all, we need to cook a good dish. So I have an idea of a dish. Maybe let's say it's going to be, let's say, waffles, right? Or
I had the waffles this morning. They were delicious. Okay.
And so I had this idea, and I go into computrition, which is basically an app that we use that calculates the nutritional values of each dish and builds the recipe for us. But we have to input into computrition the recipe that we have, and that means we got to insert every single ingredient that's going to be in a recipe. Now, if the ingredient is not in computrition, then we have to look for the nutritionals of the ingredient, and we usually do that through the USDA. Or
okay, all right.
Or if it's a prepackaged vegan substitution, we could always look at the package itself and enter it. So if it's just egg mix, for example, we could look up that and put it in, and we could sub it for eggs. But back to the other stuff. So we add every ingredient. We make the recipe in computrition. Once I'm happy with a recipe, I'll what we call cook it. And
so like a test cook?
Like a test cook. We'll test cook it. But also, before we even test cook, I call it cooking, but in computrition, it spits out the nutritional values.
Got it.
So now that we have the nutritional values behind the dish, I'll print out it and I'll cook the dish itself. And I'll taste it, right? And so if I think the dish is off, but it hits the nutritional values that we're going for, then I go back to computrition and try to sub out certain things so that we can maintain the standard, but make it a little bit more flavorful. So it's a process of back and forth per recipes.
Now, when you say maintain the standard, what do you mean by that?
So we have a nutritionist for Canyon Ranch overall that gives us a standard. So He gives a certain amount. Each dish has a certain amount of protein, carbs, fat, calories, sodium, and so for us to put a dish on the menu, it has to hit certain values of that. So what does that mean? Example.
You knew exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
I love
So
it.
for example, a breakfast entry, it needs to have between 300 and 500 calories, right? Between 40 and 60 grams of carbs. It has to have more than 20 grams of protein, less than 10 grams of fat, under 750 milligrams of sodium, and more than 3 grams of fiber. So that's what we play with for each, just for specifically just breakfast. So
Right, that's breakfast. I'm guessing throughout the day, each because there's meal service 3 times a day,
yes,
and so there's probably a goal calorie range that is in there,
yeah,
and then each meal service has those goals
yeah.
across the dishes.
The way it's designed is um, each meal is about 750 calories if you partake of an item per category. But we also have snack stations that are also within our standards. So that's also designed depending on the guests. If they're a more active person, they need more calories, or they're less active and don't want too many calories. But there's always options for food everywhere on the property.
Yeah,
Um, and you know, we're on top of just being nutrition, we're also trying to showcase to the guests that nutrition isn't boring food. You
yeah.
know, we try to do cool dishes at dinner. We try to do kind of like a three-course tasting. Of course, the calories per dish is much lower, so it's between 100 and 200 calories per course. But
Per
for
course, but you're getting 3 courses.
3 courses,
Yeah,
right? So now, I mean, obviously,
that's my favorite way to eat. I would rather eat more things
yeah,
than a lot of one thing.
yeah, it kind of gets you taste more. You know,
Yeah,
it's a little bit funner, right? And we don't shy away from desserts also. You know, now of course every dessert that we serve portion is much smaller, um, but a certain amount of fiber in each dish.
I think there's I don't know how we got to this point where like that the one I always go to is like Cheesecake Factory when you get
Yeah,
a portion. Like
yeah,
this is this is family style for one person. You get like a pasta
hmm
dish and it's
hmm
like a pound of pasta.
hmm yeah.
Nobody needs that.
No, that's enough for like maybe 2 days.
Yeah, you could just set it on the table and everybody has some.
Yeah,
I don't know how we ended up there, but I think the the state of health in the United States is reflective and
yeah,
indicative of that.
yeah, yeah,
So I think besides the fact with a dessert, if it's good enough, like yesterday at lunch, I had the chocolate mousse, and it
yeah.
was I don't
A
know,
little cup. It's like
yeah,
a
it was
little.
tiny,
Yeah.
but there was so much flavor in
hmm
every single bite that you didn't want to keep eating it. You had 3 4 bites at the most, and you're like I am just completely satisfied
Yep.
and good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about going into the test. How does how has that impacted how you've trained the line and because we were talking a little bit beforehand about like, oh, you try something and oh, it's a little dry, just add some butter,
hmm
do this,
Yeah.
but then when you're figuring out what the macros are and then communicating what the macros are, if something's dry, you just can't slap more butter in it
Yeah.
because you're going to throw the whole calculation off.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is educating the staff, the cooks, that there's a reason why we can't do certain things, right? There's like, hey, we can't just add butter because it adds a lot of fat to it, and it's not in the recipe, right? We're trying to be transparent to our guests, and you know what's in the numbers. We're trying to be true to it as much as possible. Um, so instead of it's about thinking out of the box. Instead of maybe and we need butter, maybe we could add, you know, maybe we can add a little salt here and there, but not too much. Or we can add a little minos, but all within what the recipe is demanding, right? So it's just been a change of culture. You know, I think we all come from backgrounds where it's just add butter, add cream. And right now it's more like we can't do that. Just make sure that we understand how to cook the dish well and we weigh out everything that we do. And just taste it, you know, like if something's off, then call a manager over and we could look at it and fix it, you know.
Yeah.
But the recipes are the recipes.
Yeah, I think now has that impacted the the overall process because like I'm someone who meal preps every week,
Yeah.
and so I'm sure that surprises a lot of people. Um, but I feel like the prep process has to be a lot more stringent than like instead of using, which I'm not against, but instead of using a handful or these loose measurements, are you guys measuring stuff and like
Oh yeah,
really down to the T of
yeah,
grams and whatnot?
yeah. All recipes are down to ounces, grams, teaspoons, and tablespoons. Ideally, everything's to grams, but sometimes the USDA does not give out those measurements in grams. It's kind of weird, you know. But metric system's great, but you know.
Anybody who's used MyFitnessPal knows that that's just how it is.
Yeah. But yeah, so everything that we do, we always measure it out. We have measuring spoons and we pre-portion a lot of stuff, especially for service. We pre-portion, we weigh out our proteins. But yeah, it's about making sure that the prep is standardized. You know, at most restaurants, I think there's always one guy that does the steaks a little bit bigger, one guy that's smaller, or one guy serves a little bit more soup. Here, it's about training them to make sure that they're all on the same page.
So let me ask you a question. When I was in, I was here for dinner last night.
Mm-hmm.
When they're doing soup,
Yeah.
do they put the bowl on a scale and measure out before it comes out?
No, we have a measuring spoon. We have
Oh,
a
okay.
ladle. A ladle
Okay.
that has an ounce amount.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that makes it easier.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of having to, we just boom. So
Okay.
a lot of stuff that we measure out with the scales are usually the flours or batters that we add to
Got it.
dishes.
Okay.
But when we're on the line, you know, it's kind of tough for us to kind of just like pop out the scale every single time.
Right.
But we have measuring spoons.
Got it.
So yeah.
Okay. And then this can also benefit groups. I want to confirm a rumor I heard yesterday
Mhm.
because I asked someone who I don't think works in the kitchen about a food and beverage question. So now I
Okay.
get to confirm or deny.
Okay.
If you have someone coming who has specific macro requirements that they're supposed to hit each day,
Mhm.
are you guys able to? This is obviously potentially an extreme case,
Yeah.
but I think some of the other properties are probably more familiar with it. It sounds like you guys are able to accommodate that if you have people that are supposed to hit certain numbers. And by the way, for anybody unfamiliar with macros are, why don't you tell them?
Well, macros are just well, how do I explain it?
It's like high level macronutrients. So
Yeah.
it is calories,
It's
fat,
calorie, carbs, fat, fiber, sodium, and am I missing
protein.
one? Protein. The main one. The
Pro-
main one.
yeah,
The main one.
it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if somebody comes in that has specific macronutrient requirements, is that something that you guys can accommodate for? They're like, I have to hit 2,000, or there's the other end of the spectrum, right? Like there's someone who's a bodybuilder and they're like,
Yeah.
an elite athlete that's like, I need 3,000 calories a day. I need 250 grams of protein. I need blah, 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 blah. Can they advance that to you guys? And
Yeah. Absolutely. We have a really great kind of reception team that will capture all information before a guest comes on property. They usually reach out and be like, "Hey, is there any special needs?" And usually it's more of a dietary, but we've had some athletes, some 49er fans out there, you know, some pretty important players come out here and stay for a couple of days and have some specific needs. And yeah, we cater to them. We definitely make sure that they're getting enough protein, enough carbs. I think it was off season, so I don't think he was consuming as much. But if I had to guess, because based off what they do,
he ate all the desserts.
yeah. But no, but also if you have a specific like a Mediterranean diet or 100% gluten free or does not consume corn syrup and stuff like that, which we don't produce or we don't have in general, but stuff like that we could accommodate. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I want to call out is the fact that on the menu,
Yeah.
and I love the fact that this is an optional experience.
Yes.
All the macros are listed, but like sometimes when you go to a meal or if you're on vacation, you go somewhere and you're like, oh, I really wanted that, and they put the calories on it and it ruined it for me.
Yeah.
In the dining room, when you sit down, you're presented with a menu, and the menu is macro free.
Yes.
But there's a little QR
yeah,
code
yeah.
where you can go investigate.
Yes. I think we all know QR code came very popular with COVID.
Yep.
And
I might just start calling it the COVID code instead of the QR code.
Yeah. I didn't know until COVID happened, right? But yeah, we had a lot of guests that wellness has also just moved from restraining people from eating to encouraging people to eat. It's fuel. And so we've had a lot of guests that had that complaint before where they felt restrictive because they saw the calories, and that is also one of the pillars that we're working on here is also spiritual wellness, right? And so we decided about a year ago that we were going to have the information available, but not at a first glance. And on this property specifically, we haven't had much issues with that. I know that Tucson property has been around for a while. It's something different for them. But we also have always the printed menu with calories on hand if somebody does not care for QR codes.
If they
Yeah.
lean all in, and just are like, I'm putting my phone in my safe and I'm walking away.
Yeah.
I mean, I have zero signal here.
Yeah.
So if it weren't for Wi-Fi, my phone wouldn't even work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's also we're retreat. We're trying to get people away from their day to day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. Thank you, Chef George.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
No
This has
problem.
been awesome.
Yeah.
I can't say I've been to, one of the things that really struck with me is, we talked earlier, when I worked at 24 Hour Fitness and I ran their internal events,
Yeah.
I was trying to find a caterer that would show up and, along with the food labels, put all the macros on it.
Yeah.
So that we had people that were athletes and or aspiring bodybuilders or whatever, so that when they served, they knew what they were getting in their meals.
Yeah.
And it was impossible. And I was like, but this was, I don't know, 2012, so it was a different time.
Yeah.
But from the looks of the software, that might have been when it was written anyways.
Yeah, it's an outdated, but
it's out there.
Yeah.
So I think as planners, if this is something that's important to your group, go out there, find it. I've found at least one place so far where this exists, here at Canyon Ranch.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of our pillars. So
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you,
Awesome.
Chef George.
Thank you. All right. Cool.
That's it.
All right. Cool. That was easy.
I'm joined with David. David, what's your official title here?
I am a fitness instructor at Canyon Ranch.
Okay.
I have a background in kinesiology, and I have a certification in the CSCS for strength and conditioning specialist.
Okay. Awesome. And we worked out this morning,
Correct.
which was fantastic and also miserable, but I expect workouts to be miserable. We did a rep scheme I've never done before, which I really enjoyed. We did, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we basically, everything we did, we used kettlebells, which is also great because it's not a normal steady thing that you can hold on to.
Right.
And so you engage a lot more stability and things of that nature. But we would do a normal speed rep, like a 1 count down, 1 count up, or contract and release. We'd do 2 reps of that, and then we would do a slow count, so that it was time under tension.
Right.
And then we did 2 of those, and then we'd repeat, and then switch to the other side. I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Is that your own proprietary madness, or did you find it somewhere?
I mean, I think working in the profession of strength and conditioning, you always find things from other people that you can use, and they're always there to help you. I know that one person I like to follow a lot is Christian Thibodeau, so I'll give him props for that, because he's an amazing strength coach, and he's up there in the upper echelon of being mindful of learning, teaching people how to do fitness, and just so knowledgeable, it's ridiculous.
Awesome.
So
I love that. Being here at Canyon Ranch, you get a wide variety of clientele. When you offer a 8 a.m. class like this morning, you don't know who's going to show up.
Right.
So I'd love to talk about kind of your approach to those classes and fitness, so that when you get a varying level of skill levels, how you can approach that so that people feel comfortable.
I think one of the things that makes people feel comfortable is being personable. I mean, we work with such a diverse group of individuals, from the younger to the older population. But I also find that people come in here for different reasons, whether it's for wellness, or whether they're dealing with an injury, or whether they're just dealing with a loss and trying to get over things. So you really have to be open-minded and be ready for anything, because sometimes it's an emotional thing versus something that's more about getting better in their goals when it comes to fitness. So I think it just starts with being personable, and then making it so that everyone's welcome, no matter what their level of fitness is.
Awesome. I love that. And then obviously with the programming, you can adjust that based on a person's abilities or needs or whatnot.
Correct. So I just try to keep to primal movements, regular patterns like squats, lunges, hinging patterns, pulling and pressing, and things like that. Things that we do in our daily lives. But also, making sure that I'm allowing for modifications, making sure that I address that before classes at hand. Sometimes people are more than obliged to let me know about what they're dealing with, so that helps a lot. So I can give them alternatives while everyone's doing something else. So I'm trying to balance between two different types of people with regard to that during the class sessions.
Fair enough. Can you give me a little rundown of the variety of types of classes you guys offer? Because like this morning we were working with kettlebells and that was unexpected.
Right.
But then there's also other types. And then there was another class afterwards, right?
Right.
And then there was one before that as well.
I mean, we offer everything that incorporates fitness, right? There's a class for stretching. There's a class for body weight, which we use straps, similar to TRX straps, except we use lift straps. We do class outdoors with bands. So we use bands. And then, of course, we use the kettlebells. And then we work on things such as range of motion using foam rolling and stretching. So I think it just encompasses everything that works along with fitness, aside from offering yoga and things like that. And that's kind of covering the whole aspect of fitness itself.
Yeah, last night I went to the yin yoga, which I had never heard of. I'm probably because I'm not a yogi person. It enlightened me that there's a new form of yoga that I'm terrible at. For people who aren't familiar with yin yoga, I know you didn't teach the class. You
Right.
probably got to go home, but you're familiar with it.
Just a little bit. I took a little bit of yoga back in college. It really helped me with my lower back. But I think for me, just doing the stretching, having to do that is enough for me. But go ahead with your where you're
So
going.
I was going to have you kind of explain. I found it really interesting. I probably benefited more from outside the realization of, oh, I suck at this too, of the setup of what yin yoga is compared to traditional like hot yoga and that type of thing. She explained it at the beginning of class, and if you're up for it, I'd love it if you could explain that a little bit as well of what the yin behind the yin yoga means.
Well, I think just going from the a perspective of a little bit of finding balance, right? And I think that just goes back to fitness itself, right? For instance, I do the stretch class, and then you have yin yoga, and there's the other types of yoga that are offered here at Canyon Ranch. So I think it's just about finding something that fits for you, whether it's your strength or your stretching, right? There's different ways to go about it. It's just what works best for you and sticking to that and finding something that calls to you a little bit better.
Awesome, I love it, and I think that's why I've noticed in the schedule of programming, there's stuff happening frequently because there's hikes and that kind of stuff too,
Right.
right? And it's happening all the time, so that there's always something fun for you to try and see what you like best.
Right. And it all seems similar to some sense, but once you get a taste of it, you realize there's a subtle difference in between the hikes. There's a subtle difference in between yoga versus dynamic stretching. There's a subtle difference between working outside or working indoors with kettlebells. So I
Right.
think it's just taking on one and finding your niche in the other.
Fair enough. Have you had anybody, or can you share a story about someone who maybe was, let's say, nervous or hesitant to try one of the fitness classes and they did, and you saw them kind of blossom during that class?
I think doing things like fitness in the redwoods is one of the classes that I like doing. Just having guests go out in the redwoods, having some fun, exploring the outdoors. It kind of takes their mind off of fitness. And then we have these challenges that the guests do with one another. Sometimes they feel like they can't do it. We have these walls, for example, that they feel like they can't climb. But when someone cheers them on, I'm there to help them as well. I think they feel more empowered. And I think that's kind of missing in the fitness industry, that, together people feel more empowered to work out, more inclined to show up in the studio or the gym, wherever they're working at, And that empowers them, and then they realize this is what I've been missing. Just someone to go out with me and do the fitness with me, but also, not underestimating myself, knowing that I could actually probably do this once I tried it, but it just took someone to get me there and to come to that realization.
Yeah. So you mentioned a term. I don't know if it's trademarked or not. Fitness in the redwoods.
Maybe for us, I'm not
It might
quite
be.
sure either.
It could be.
I don't know.
Um, what exactly is that?
So we start off with going down into the forest. We go off with a rope pull, and then we'll climb over some walls, and then we'll head on down to some monkey bars, and then we'll take it to a small Buddha trail, which we walk around with sandbags over our back. And of course, this is all just for fun, to have fun with the guests, for them to get to know each other. But it's also a way to build some camaraderie and learning about someone's fitness journey, perhaps someone's life. Do they exercise? Do they do this? Do they do that? But also on the way, there's these challenges, and everyone's trying to cheer everyone on to complete these challenges that someone may think, oh, this is a joke. Why am I doing this? I do this for a living, and I can do this all day in my sleep. Whereas some people, they look at it and it's like, I've never done this before. I'm kind of scared. And they come to the realization that, with everyone there having some moral support, they're actually able to do these things. And when they accomplish these things on the trail, such as like the monkey bars, for example, I get a lot of guests that are hesitant about that. But when they're able to accomplish that, they feel strong within themselves. And then they start to realize that they're a lot stronger than they actually were. And that perhaps, maybe they could do some of these things on their own, or maybe it just takes someone to help them get to that point, to show up to the gym, to show up every morning and get my morning walk in, and just to get moving.
It's an incredible metaphor for life, because all of our challenges are different. We all face different things, and when you have people around that encourage you, it makes any challenge a heck of a lot easier.
Definitely.
There's something special about shared suffering. I like to call it trauma bonding for good, because it must be fun to be there when you see these people that approach this thing as basically strangers, and then by the end they're like laughing and they've like made new friends. I'm guessing you probably see that fairly often.
Oh, of course.
When these different people go have this shared experience,
Right.
do they all seem to walk away in the same way? Like, do they all seem transformed to a certain extent?
No, I would agree. I would definitely agree that they do seem transformed. I think, going back to your point, being together helps create more of a bond. But I also think it makes it more of enjoyment. It takes their mind off actually doing work, because they know someone that they're close to, or they're getting to know someone. So it makes it fun for them. But I also think too that, in the grander scheme of things, not being alone and having someone who's went through a shared experience, even though they're just going out and having fun, it's going to be a memory that they can take home with each other. And I think that creates a foundation to help build some teamwork. But also, hey, maybe, we might go work out together, and that might motivate me a little bit more. And that person didn't know that, hey, this has been my problem the whole time. I don't know how to show up to the gym because there's no one to motivate you. But now I know that you like fitness. Maybe I might ask this person to join me next time, and we'll go out and have some fun outside and work out versus going to the gym or something like that.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's it.
All right.
Let's wrap. Beautiful.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for making it easy.
I tried.
No, you did more than try. I was thinking I was going to be completely nervous and get stuttering in my words and things like that. But
Well,
it
good.
really helps because you seem very humble. So thank you.
Thank you. I fitness changed my life, and I know the power it has, and I for the people who are intimidated or scared of trying it, I want them to realize that we all started somewhere, and there's no reason for them not to give it a shot.
But the funny thing is, you say that too, and then when you're around the upper echelon of those strength coaches and things like that, they're so incredibly arrogant and unapproachable, and it's a total turnoff. I don't even like going to those conferences because of that.
Yeah.
Some of them I can't even approach, even though I wish I could talk to them and learn more about it. And just having people like you just making things like a lot more open to the real world, people who are actually doing fitness and just want to do it for a healthy lifestyle. That's what we need more of.
Yeah, just so that you can keep your independence. You don't have to, as you get older, you're not, you don't have to move into a self-care or a assisted living facility as early. Like you can,
See, Sky? See? Listen to this guy. I'm glad I started exercising at 18. I don't want to end up like that with someone taking care of me.
yeah, yeah. I like everyone's, people talk trash about burpee because they're freaking awful. But like it literally, it is the anti I've fallen and I can't get up.
It's true.
It is just you're intentionally throwing yourself on the ground and getting back up. Because you can. So, okay. Were you recording all that?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. I am joined. I said joined. I was prepping myself.
Oh, you're so joyeux, so joyeux.
I said that is fantastic.
And we tune into joy here.
And that
right
is
here.
and that is not being edited. We are going to leave that in. I am joined by Jean-Marie. Yes, did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Please give us your full name and your official title here at Canyon Ranch.
I'm Jean-Marie Mudd, and I lead our spiritual wellness here at Woodside Canyon Ranch.
Okay, excellent. So with that, I'd love to understand a little bit about your calling to come here, because I feel like how you ended up here is such a severe understatement for someone of your caliber.
Thank you. Thank you. We are all highly trained spiritual companions across all the Canyon Ranch ecosystem, with the Masters of Divinity and Theology and life experience in companioning people through transitions, loss and grief, celebrations, and making sense of life through good times and hard times. My journey here to the Woodside Canyon Ranch actually started in the Tucson Canyon Ranch, where I was part of the team for several years, and really believe in the vision that was set forth by our founders, Mel and Enid Zuckerman, that we deliver integrated whole person wellness, body, mind, heart, spirit. None of those things stand alone. All of them, when in harmony and synergy with each other, yield transformation. And that's why I'm here at the Woodside Canyon Ranch, because we are the smallest of the Canyon Ranch resort offerings. We're in the ecosystem of Canyon Ranch, we're a retreat center. And that's a terrific opportunity to engage our entire team, from culinary to outdoor to our fitness team and spa, and all who provide mindful meditation and yoga, into an integrated whole of our program offerings. So we are very unique here in this intimate setting, in the beautiful silence of the redwoods, along with the bird song, along with the creativity of the human endeavor, and we embrace it all. We embrace it all. And so traveling here from the Sonoran Desert, which I love very much, and finding the beauty in the redwoods and being part of this redwood ecosystem has been awesome, because there's so many lessons we learn from the forest and from one another. And when we have individual work with people who come on our leisure weekends, or corporate groups who come to understand their place in an ecosystem, we can offer that experience right here, nestled in the woods.
I think the thing that I have been overwhelmed by here was just the immersion that takes place when you set foot on property. Mm-hmm. By the way, did you have anything to do with how far down the rabbit hole will you go?
We work with that saying. We actually received that when we acquired this property, and we maintained that along with several of the other unique features of the land here. And so I love to engage all who come in an exploration about what that means exactly, But I love to invite people into transformation, which is when you go down the rabbit hole, we can be changed forever in a very, very positive way.
I couldn't agree more. I think one of the things I really appreciate about what you said is the fact that it's the whole body wellness. I think back when we started talking about our concept and our justification around wellness at events, we were really focused on fitness because of the physiological benefits that fitness brings to brain function and whatnot. And the pandy, as I like to call it, really reminded all of us, because that was in 1819 we were first talking about that,
Right.
and then that happened, and it brought all of us into a different place, that wellness was much bigger than fitness. Me especially, I was raised in a very strict religious household. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness.
Yes.
So to me, when I heard wellness, I usually tended to shut down, because I was like, I don't need your crystals and your cultiness and whatever. I've been there. I'm good. I'm all set. And then about May of 2020, I almost had a total mental breakdown, because I love to travel. I'm a total gypsy at heart. Like, I have to be going somewhere. There's some joke meme about tripophobia, is when you don't have another trip on the calendar. But by May of 2020, 2 weeks was well and gone. No idea when anything was going to end. And I literally felt like a caged animal. And it was driving me crazy. And that was when people really started to understand the mental toll that this was taking on people. And the company I worked for at the time, they offered the Headspace app, which was great for someone who was kind of a dummy. Let's say standoffish and like, nope, that's not for me.
Yeah, you had your own fund of knowledge and experience in both directions, had judgment about both directions.
Agreed.
But the crisis that happened through the pandemic opened you to new possibilities.
I didn't have a choice.
You discovered the universe of your inner world and the richness in there, and how that amplifies your physical fitness. And that's exactly what we drive for here. Many people come because they also want stress reduction and don't see how spiritual wellness fits inside of stress reduction, so that you simply think it's a mechanistic experience, just like some people would approach fitness as a mechanistic experience. But actually, when we approach the whole, body, mind, heart, and spirit, so heart including vulnerability and emotional intimacy, and spirit having to do with connection to something greater than yourself, that we belong to, that we are part of, and that we can clarify our values, find and create meaning, and that leads to our sense of purpose in life. That's well-being. And so it comes alive in everything we are and what we do. And what we know recently with the Surgeon General's declaration that we have a national crisis of isolation in this country, that people are suffering greatly from a lack of connection. So fostering connection really is an inside job. It starts inside us first and kind of ripples out from there. And so for you, that sounds like that crisis helped you connect inwardly. And then look what you've done. You've brought it out in amplification.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Say I hadn't gone through that journey, right? And I'm going to pretend that I'm an executive.
Okay.
And I'm telling my executive admin, we're going to go do an event at this. I love that everyone behind the camera is like just glaring at me like, oh my God. But it's make-believe. It's TV. I tell my EA or my head of events, we're going to go to this property. There's some really great things there, including, and I talk about you. That person has not gone through what I've gone through. How do you take this? I don't even want to use the term skeptic, but the person reluctant or that has had religious trauma, because that's kind of what I equate my experience within the organized religion I was a part of. Two is, I experienced shunning and things of that nature. So that's why religion and spirituality were interchangeable to me, but I don't think they are anymore. How would you help someone understand the difference between traditional organized religion and the spiritual guidance that you offer here? I know that's a big question.
It's a great question.
But I think it's super important for people to understand.
I think what we all seek is authenticity within ourselves and between ourselves. So when we first meet, most important thing I can do is map where you find yourself in your experience and meet you on that common ground. And then together we explore what it means to you to expand your definition or understanding of your life in the spiritual wellness context, that you're connecting to this source, that you're clarifying your values, you're mapping those values up against your purpose and your journey in your life, in your career, in your family, and in your community, so that meaning making and purpose unfold from that journey. And so when a corporate executive or their team member come to us for this exploration, first of all, we start with this basis of relationship. And if somebody expressed to me what you just did, I will say, I am sorry that you experienced that trauma. And I honor your experience, that that's difficult. And it formed many judgments that you have. Let's explore how we can make meaning at this moment in time and what it is you hope for, because people really organize life based on our hope, what we aspire to and what we bring. And if we're willing to look at both the light in our lives as well as the shadow, the good as well as the sorrow or loss, we can actually work together then to create new forms of relationships back home, which is really what we want everyone to have a fabulous experience here. We really want you to take it home with you and in your work team. So often we do start in the forest, where we take people down and learn about this ecosystem and begin to think about where we fit in the ecosystem of this land, and let the land teach us about our relationships, about our interconnectedness with each other, and what it means to be something part of something so large as this beautiful planet and our place in it and our care for it and our care for one another in meaningful and practical ways. So we take a journey together, and it's very, very customer intimate. It's very much grounded in who you are and where you're coming from. And so we literally curate your experience or your group's experience to match what it is that you intend, because most everybody means to bring good things into the world, to do well as they also do good.
I have to compliment you on being so succinct in things. So I really appreciate your articulation. So thank you for that. I think it's really interesting. I'm going to go a little bit off script here because
Okay.
you said some things that I'm recalling other things we talked about in a previous conversation. The fact that you're talking about taking that first step in the forest and on the land and talking about interconnection. And I know you spent a lot of time in Native American parts of the country where still the way they live.
Yes.
I think when you start thinking about ecosystems and we think about businesses usually can't operate in a silo. They have to be all interconnected as well. But the redwood can't fire somebody like someone in business can, so it's a little different. But is that where you kind of first learned about these things, or the parallels there between the land and people and our overall belonging?
Yeah, that's part of my own story and my own journey that I invite others into, because I truly believe, particularly when other belief systems or structures are no longer working for individuals or families, there needs to be some way to connect. Now, for when people have a belief system that works for them, we speak that language. We're highly interfaith trained. But my own journey really came from interacting with the great blue cathedral of the sky and the stars and my land, especially in the Sonoran Desert at that time, and understanding how the indigenous people lived in that rhythm of life that's so meaningful, and honoring that and doing everything we can to lift that up, and honoring the ways that still live for us all today. For instance, water is life, as one example. Generosity and thinking ahead to seventh generation planning, which is good for everyone. So my own personal journey came this way, and I find it very effective to companion other people in this way, because pretty much everyone who's rejected structures will say they find some form of well-being and refreshment coming outside. And so we are a nature-based retreat and highly integrated across our team to really support that experience. And as I said, how to take it home, how to be part of your land wherever you come from, how to know your own watershed, how to know how to replenish your own well personally, but also on the land.
That's amazing. I think I think that's one of the challenges people might be worried about embarking on anything that's spiritual in a corporate setting.
Yeah.
Is because for the most part, they say the two things you don't talk about at the dinner table is politics and religion.
Right.
And I think the fact that you're talking about using something that's as neutral as the environment to level that playing field so that regardless of if people are happy in their structured religion or if there's someone like me who is like, nope, I'm out, you can find a common ground so that they can all connect. And regardless of what faith you may be, we all live here. And
that's right.
If this is gone, we're gone.
And Dave, I know you're really committed to evidence-based practices and fitness. And so we draw that forward into our work as well. And so we know, the neuroscience, that our bodies thrive, our minds are more clear, we have more capacity to live and breathe from the heart and let the spirit rise when we go outside and let the light in our eyes. And that you find that phrase of light in the eyes in almost every sacred text in the world. That's just a deep wisdom. So learning those practices, and now we can translate those into the neuroscience for stress reduction, for improved cardiovascular functioning, for better healing. So we work a lot with physicians and health providers here. We have the continuing medical education credential to offer a variety of ranchside presentations, we like to call them, or fireside chats, that allow people to connect around their own well-being, but the well-being for others, and how to foster that, and the science backs it. And the more the neuroscience is proceeding with the new technologies, the better it gets, but they echo the teachings that are thousands of years old.
I had a previous guest who used the term ancient practices meets modern science. Because she is a practitioner in a number of modalities, and she's like, look, we're not doing anything new. We're just going back to the things that we forgot we used to do.
Right.
Because this world has distracted us with shiny objects.
Well, shiny objects are sometimes just bureaucratic routines that squash the spirit. And when people...
To drive compliance.
Right. And so when people don't feel that sense of authenticity, as we talked about earlier, then everybody shuts down or reluctant to even try it out. When we can find that intersection of your own natural way, the amplification of the science, and the connection of the mystery that is available in our spiritual teachings globally, and we respect them all, we honor them all, and we lift them up for everyone to connect the dots, and then in practical terms, take it home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We've talked about a number of things. I'd love if you could kind of give an overview of the types of service offerings, and then I don't want to say if you have a favorite, because I feel like that it's like someone who has a lot of children trying to pick their favorite child. They love them all. There's still usually a favorite, but I'd love if you could kind of give a little bit of an overview of the spectrum of offerings that are here, and then on the back end of that, talk about the one that you have seen people are usually the most willing to try, and how they come out on the other side of it, so to speak.
Well, throughout every week, we offer 8 to 10 presentations.
Okay.
A good third of those are held outdoors, so that you can learn to be up and moving in the practices that allow you to connect body, mind, heart, spirit, but more deliberately, so that you can cultivate and harness the power of your intentional attention and capacity to have transformation in your life. Across our individual services, we have a range from the general kind of spacious, what is it you're here to work on and how can we support you? What are your practices? How can we give you some new practices? What are some resources we can offer you? Spiritual guidance. All the way to soul journey, which I mentioned previously, this soul journey, non-ordinary waking dream state, where you have a neuroacoustic adventure, one that actually allows you access to your internal wisdom. In that access to your internal wisdom, to have an insight, to have a flash of inspiration or creativity. Many artists actually come here and allow themselves into this experience so they can take it home and work with it for their next creation. Some people come because there's something deep on their hearts. They're stuck. They don't know how to process it. So this opens possibilities for them. That tends to be the easiest way in for people who are new to this work of spiritual wellness. And the second most important selection people often make is cultivating life on purpose. Because again, that sense of meaning and purpose has been really severely impacted by the last 4 years. It's not getting easier now. And people across the age span, across demographics, across the country and the world are coming here because they've suddenly connected to the possibility they've lost touch with themselves. What are they doing with their lives? Something happened and their work fell apart or transitioned them out. What are they about? And what I love is that people are resisting the frightened impulse to run towards doing and spend some time getting to know who I am and who I mean to be, so that what I do is an expression of my authenticity. It's a really powerful service. Sometimes people have that connection also because there's been a loss in their lives, a loss of a loved one or career, a home, even beloved pets. And grief and loss and remembrance is part of what we do as well. Body-spirit connection. We do duets for couples who are learning to speak together in new intimacy with one another, or to seek renewal of their vows, commitment to each other, and how to be able to allow themselves into a celebration of this through a rite of passage. So we actually offer ritual processes as well to mark these transitions or celebrations. And we use everything from our singing bowls to shamanic drumming to processes where we literally physically let go what doesn't serve us and call into our lives what does serve us.
That is an incredible overview. I don't know how you keep it all straight, especially with that vast variety. I feel like, I mean, it was 100 years between pandemics, essentially, right? Spanish flu was
Right.
1918 to 1920.
Yeah.
Approximately. And the world just kind of marched on for a number of decades, obviously, almost a century. So pretty much everyone who was alive and working, they lived their life the way they had always lived it. They kind of fell in line. The world was just kind of moving on. And then this pandemic happened and just blew everything up for everybody. And I feel like there's a lot of people, just to strike on your point, there's also a lot of people who probably didn't have any intention with their life. And they just were going through the motions because that's all they knew. That's all any of us knew.
Yeah.
And this great pause that happened, it gave all of us an opportunity. I know in the events industry, all these people said back to normal. I don't curse very often, but I was like, fuck normal. Let's come back better.
Right.
We've all been given a gift to reevaluate what's important to us. What isn't important to us?
Right.
Why are we just doing what we were doing, and why aren't we doing what matters? Yep. And that was the big takeaway for me, was that I had always done what I did because that's the way it had always been done. And when you got to come back after not doing things the way they had always been done, why would you just do them the same way?
That's awesome. You're echoing what we're seeing happening in younger people who are questioning.
Thank you, because I'm not that young,
everything.
so I appreciate that.
Right? That's one of the benefits of a disruption of the magnitude of the pandemic. And there is a significant struggle around that, a struggle for meaning, a struggle for equity and inclusion and mercy and justice. That conversation is very much alive, which is why we actually see quite a few young people who come to the ranch exactly for this conversation. And that is a relatively new population for Canyon Ranch. And it's a terrific opportunity, because if we can be supportive of their journey and they become the leaders of people who lead more people into this conversation, we can actually engage in the conversation that you for the world.
I think that's a perfect way to end it. Thank you so much for sitting down.
Awesome.
I know your time is valuable. We sat down for like a half hour, so I really appreciate and value it.
I love what you're doing. Appreciate the great talent around that bring this alive, and yeah, I'm going to hold you in my heart as you venture forward in world-changing ways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You
Yeah.
heard it here first, everybody. All right. Joined on this segment by Sean. Sean, give everyone your full name and your official title here at Canyon Ranch.
My name is Sean Milburn, and I am the general manager here at Canyon Ranch Woodside.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your hospitality. Thank you for having us. I know we've tried to be as minimal in disruption as possible. So thank you for giving us permission to run around and film stuff.
Oh, it's been great. The team is excited you guys are here, and I know our CEO yesterday was excited to meet you guys and learn all about what you're doing.
That was a phenomenal chance encounter.
Yes. Yeah.
And he lives in Austin.
I know.
So,
what are the chances, right?
When they do their soft opening, hopefully we can go check it out.
Absolutely. No, it's going to be the most extraordinary wellness resort probably in the world when they're finished.
That is a very grand statement, and I am absolutely here for it.
I believe it.
Okay, what I'd love to do is I'd love to jump in a little bit about when we talked prior to coming on site. We talked a little bit about your wellness journey, because I think if you're going to be the GM here at a property like this, you have to have a reason to be here. There has to be some intentionality. A lot of times we talk about people can't just throw a 6 a.m. yoga session in an agenda and say, okay, wellness is done, because it's so much more than that. So I'd love if you would share with the viewers what your background has been and a little bit of your wellness journey, so that they understand who's helping to ensure that this property is thorough.
Absolutely. Well, I've been in hotels as a GM actually for over 20 years, but most of them have been large corporate type Embassy Suites and Marriott properties. About 7 years ago, I got the opportunity to be the GM at Suncadia Resort up in Washington State, 6,000 acre resort where we had trees and nature everywhere, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with just doing what I was doing as far as a hospitality manager, but out in nature.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Did it almost feel, I don't want to say easier, but easier, like when you were, I know I moved recently, and when I drive home, part of my drive is kind of over a little hill, and when I come over this hill and it looks out into like this greenery and a lake, it just, the decompression is immediate. So did you feel like it was almost easier to be more hospitable in an environment like that?
Yeah, it takes you right into the present moment immediately, because you're around what we're supposed to be around. You know, the woods and nature and animals, and we had a herd of elk that we took care of.
Amazing.
We had our own large culinary garden. We grew a lot of our own vegetables. Just, you know, you come over that hill or you come through that windy pine forest, and you're taken to a better place than a box hotel with 300 rooms all compacted into meeting rooms, etc. It's just we were able to do a lot more with our guests and groups, and they were also able to be taken to that transcendent place. So it was a really profound moment for me. I was only there for about a year and a half. We missed the Bay Area, so we came back to California, born and raised here, and my family wanted to be.
Me too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in San Jose and Campbell.
San Luis Obispo.
Yeah, it's kind of Bay Area.
Yeah, Central Coast more.
I have a bunch of friends who live in Slough, so it's
it's my family's still down there. My sister lives in Sacramento as a teacher, and
nice.
My brother's a teacher in Hayward, so we're all still around. It's just been California, Bay Area especially, has been home to us for a long time.
Yeah.
Decided to come back to the Bay Area. Ended up in the city actually at Le Méridien for a while, and
I know it. I've stayed there.
As you know, a very busy corporate hotel again. So went back the other way, swung, and felt that it wasn't the right move, um, and got back into Embassy Suites because there was one in San Rafael that was about to undergo a huge renovation,
Oh yeah. Okay.
and we were able to create our own food and beverage experiences, create another culinary farm on property, which was the most unique Embassy Suites in the country after we were finished.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
So that one actually had like land. I mean, normally
yeah,
you think of these box hotels, you don't think there's any. The property is surrounding it is usually just parking lot.
yeah. We had a parking lot, but we had an area that was kind of covered with grass that we turned into a 4,000 square foot farm.
That's amazing.
And I just got sent pictures of their one of their first events out there today, so it's pretty awesome.
Nice.
Um,
And then you came from there to here.
there to here, and a big part of that journey was we bought a RV, and we decided to start going camping a lot because I missed, I was in the hotel, still in the corporate world, but I missed this so much, and I really wanted to be in it as much as possible. So we first started with a travel trailer, and then got into the RVs and started going to Mount Shasta every year,
Oh,
at least once.
are we talking like a 53-foot Prevost
No, no,
RV
no, no.
or
It's
not
a
yet?
no, not yet. It's a regular gas V10,
Okay.
but
It's like the cab over.
Forest River,
Okay.
FR3. Yeah. So it was good for our kids who were still teens, still are teens, and but now it's mostly my wife and I who like to go up there. And I don't know if you've been to Mount Shasta, but it's a very spiritual place.
Yeah, it's holy ground for the Native
It
Americans.
is. And we've been there and done a lot of meditation up there, and I really wanted to be in that for my career again. I was looking around for resorts to be involved with, mountain resorts especially. And a good friend of mine who I worked with both at Suncadia and I was GM at the Marriott in Napa as well for a while.
Oh, okay.
And he ended up with Canyon Ranch and told me all about the company. His name's Werner. He's now, as of this week, promoted to vice president of resort operations. He told me all about this company, and one thing led to another, and I became the GM here in early July.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's exciting. Was there any particular element that they hear that really drew you to it? I mean, obviously this property is in the redwoods. This is a real background. This isn't fake, by the way. This is like there's no green screen. There's no.
This is our
This isn't
office.
Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure the first time you came here, I mean, was it the property that spoke to you? Was it management? Was it executives? Was it a mixture of the whole thing?
It was the quiet. It was the return to just being in the moment with the trees, really. I know it sounds a little odd, but these trees speak to you in a really profound way. Especially if you're right next to one of the redwoods and you touch it, you can feel the energy. And it just takes you away from all that complication that makes life complicated.
Yeah, I will say, I've been fortunate enough to get to spend last night in one of the tree houses,
Good.
and the treehouse rooms don't have any blinds or window shades, which also seems intimidating. But you also can't see anything but trees, and so no one can see in your room either, for what it's worth. Um, but just waking up this morning, I I woke up. The sun wasn't quite up yet, but it had started to get bright, and I sat in bed and I had my cup of coffee before I went to work out, and I just stared. There was a TV in the room. I have yet to turn the TV on, which I feel like is appropriate. And I just watched it get brighter, and I listened to the birds. It was 38 degrees, so I didn't open the door all the way, but it was just, it's so simple yet so overlooked.
You're in the canopy of the forest in those tree houses, literally. I mean, the floor of the forest is 20 to 30 feet down from your balcony, and the birds actually fly right at your eye level by you, the woodpeckers and the blue jays, and it's definitely a great way to wake up in the morning.
Okay, so we've been talking about wellness for individuals and why you've enjoyed it so much. But what kind of things have you seen happen with groups that come on site, and why do you think wellness is so important for groups and makes such a lasting impact?
I think the members of these groups a lot of times are coming from the same company or organization. They're coming here for a retreat, and then what the individuals are allowed to do is relax and come to a place of presence and enjoy themselves in the forest. And then a lot of those complications and spirals and all those things that tighten us up melt away, and then they're able to interact with each other on a more productive basis. They become able to connect with each other, and then their businesses or their organizations become more effective because of it. I've seen that happen. Whereas on the arrival day, they're a little bit standoffish from each other. They're a little bit of inhibition. And then on day two, after they've gone through, they've enjoyed our food, which is world class. They've enjoyed some programming, maybe some fitness classes with David, or maybe they've done some creative expression classes with Yvonne or Ben. They have laughed together. They've seen what each other can do from a creative perspective. They've experienced spiritual wellness classes or fireside chats with Jean Marie. They've seen each other in a different way. And then they start interacting in a different way. And you can tell when they leave that things are going to be different when they get back to the office.
Do you? I'm just going to wildly speculate here. This is a lot of what we talk about is evidence based and science backed and things of that nature. But I'm going to pontificate for a second, and I have a feeling you're probably going to agree with me. But do you think when people come here and they feel and experience things they aren't used to, and they take part in these shared experiences that are outside their comfort zone, that all of a sudden they start kind of just opening themselves up to what other opportunities there are. And then by being with their teammates, that in turn helps them create and foster these relationships that might otherwise not get the chance.
Absolutely. You hit it on the head. They're a lot of times unable to do that in the environment that they're always in together because they're too caught up in the everyday minutia of everything. So when they come up here, they're able to allow those restrictions to float away or melt away, and it takes them to a different level of collaboration.
Collaboration happens when people stop seeing each other as just coworkers and start seeing each other as people, because they're human. Here, when everyone is experiencing something new, they're they're on a level playing field. Maybe there's probably someone who's into wellness, which is what brought them here to begin with. But everyone else though is like, what are we doing? What are we going to go play with crystals? And there's the naysayers, and then they come and they experience it, and they go, oh, this is something different. And then they're no longer just these people that see each other in the office and are taskmasters or whatever. Everyone's human.
That's exactly right. They see each other as individuals and not as part of a company. And they get into the flow. Talk about that a lot, where they see each other just in the moment, and it allows them to collaborate on a different level. For sure. I agree with you.
Love that. You offer a wide variety of programs. You alluded to some of them earlier. I'm curious if there's any of them that you've seen, or you can even up level it if you just kind of in general, if there's types of programs that you've seen that have really impacted a group the most. And the reason I ask about that is because um, while this property only has 38 rooms, someone might have a group of 100 that they want to do something with, and they won't fit here, unfortunately. But what kind of things have you seen? What kind of programs make the most impact on groups that really create those bonds and bring people together, like you're talking about?
I think one of the most extraordinary ones here is a walk through our forest on site. We have two trails. One of them's just about 2/3 of a mile, and it takes you all the way down into the forest. And you feel the energy of the forest. There's some special places down there, And as a group, they're walking down the stairs together through the switchbacks, admiring and experiencing the quiet together. There's a Buddha carved out of redwood at the bottom. There's a vortex along the way, and they experience these wondrous things together. And I see when they start at the void, which is the sculpture at the beginning of the trail, and then when they come back up the stairs, they're different. It's a different feeling. When they first go down, they're kind of wary. When they come back up, they're laughing. That's one of the main, I think, spiritual walks through the redwoods that I've seen have a profound effect on groups. I also see folks that go into these fireside chats that we have in our loft, groups that go up there and spend time with Jeanne Marie. And then she has a plethora of different conversations that she can have with your group. I've seen that change the demeanor in a group as well. So they'll go in a little apprehensive, and then when they come out, you can tell that the energy is shifted and that they're in a place of camaraderie that they weren't before.
Yeah, I have no doubt. We sat in on her opening session last night, and her energy is just, I don't know what it is about her. Like, she is so calming and so energetic all at once that she's really a special human being.
We're very lucky to have her here. She is extraordinary. She can do everything from talks like that to sound baths to using all sorts of musical instruments to walking people through the forest. I've never met anyone like her.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's great is the fact that if somebody has a group on the weekends, all the programming is included, right?
It is. Yeah.
And so you don't even have to think about what to do. You can just literally time your meetings in between when the programming is happening if you're here for that. I didn't realize it before we got here that this was essentially an all-inclusive resort, because we came to lunch, we got here around noon, sat down, had lunch, and I was like, I can't find the prices on anything. Finally, someone was like, everything's included. And I was like, oh, that's really unique in the Bay Area. I don't know any other property that is all-inclusive.
You get everything with staying with us, and you can have as much food as you like, too.
Depending on what your macros are.
Yeah, no. And we're very particular about that. So all of our food has very specific nutritional content, macros. The macronutrients are very specific, but if you feel like having 2 or 3 of those, you can have 2 or 3 of those. And often I have 2 or 3 of those.
Yeah. Well, it's hard not to, because some of the
food's amazing.
The food is incredible. We chatted with Chef already, and it was just,
he's another extraordinary individual.
Yeah.
He's very special.
Yeah.
And George is one of the top chefs in the Bay Area. We're very lucky to have him here too, as well. The creative side that comes out of him, even with macronutrient, not restrictions, but
constraints, maybe
guidelines, that we adhere to as a Canyon Ranch property. I mean, I've never seen anyone be able to be that creative within that framework.
I had waffles for breakfast this morning.
I know.
And I did not feel bad about it. I took a picture of it. I texted it to someone, and I said, guess how many grams of protein are in these waffles?
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, none. And I was like, no, there was like 24 in waffles. Yeah. And then I talked to him, and he talked about the protein powder he used, and yeah, that was a great conversation. So I applaud you. You guys have a great team here. The stay has been amazing. We actually get one more full day here.
Good.
To really soak everything in, and even just being on property, like you said, you feel it just being in this space. And you're familiar, I'm sure, with the term forest bathing.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure that walk kind of does that. It really just brings people to have to be present in the moment.
That's what it's all about. This whole property is, you feel like you're bathing in the forest. It's magical for sure. Once you come through those gates and they close behind you, you feel like you're in a whole different world. And we really hope that as many people as possible can come here and experience it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you again for having us.
Thank you.
Come check it out. A big thank you to the team and the staff here at Canyon Ranch for being so hospitable. If you'd like to learn more or have your property featured on Return on Wellness, please feel free to reach out to me directly. Thank you so much.